morning, everyone. This is the first Dharma talk of this 3-day retreat. And to be honest with you, I forgot the title of it, even though I know it's on the 3 Fierce Mantras. The title of this retreat is Dharma Medicine for All Situations. Good topic. So again, this is a 3-day retreat, which means really there are only 2 full days. So in the realm of retreats, it's fairly short. When it's really short, it means we don't have time to waste, to kind of, slowly ease ourselves into it. We want to jump right in. And again, I'm sure you got some instructions last night. Again, you've all come here having put aside your usual activities of a Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday, your usual responsibilities, your usual tasks, all the things we usually do, as well as we've put down all our entertainments, all the things that we entertain ourselves with from morning to night. So we've all made a very conscious decision to leave all that behind, to retreat, to step back from. So that, that is all enforced by the geography, of the physicality of us being here. But as you know, why we're here is to understand things more deeply. And understanding is something that arises in the mind, as does misunderstanding. Knowing is something that arises in the mind. Not knowing is also something that arises in the mind. Calmness, happiness, well-being are all aspects of mind, as are unhappiness, suffering, etc. So we are essentially retreating from all the activities of the world. We're retreating from all the stimulations and the preoccupations that we engage in, so we can look more deeply into this mind of ours. So this retreat is offering us some Dharma medicine. But as you know, medicine is only worthwhile and helpful if it is taken, and if it is taken correctly. The first thing to make our minds receptive to this Dharma medicine is mindfulness and concentration. Mindfulness, and I'm sure you have been practicing mindfulness since you got here. Mindfulness simply means your capacity to be present. Present to what? To what's going on within your body and your mind. And to be aware of what's going on in your body is also to be aware of your senses. Your senses, which are all located in your body, are also telling you about the things you see and smell and hear and taste and touch. Mindfulness is that capacity to just be present to what's going on around us and what's going on within us, in our body, in our mind. Okay. This is the territory that we are to explore. The spiritual journey, the spiritual adventure, whatever you want to call it, is something that goes within us. It manifests outwardly, but it primarily is something that transforms within us. So if we are not in the ballpark of our body-mind, transformation is very difficult. So we practice, as the base, mindfulness. When I'm sitting, I know I'm sitting. When I'm walking, I know I'm walking. When I'm eating, I know I'm eating. When I'm feeling something, I know I'm feeling something. When I'm seeing something, I know I'm seeing something. When I'm hearing something, I know I'm hearing something. Okay? That is all mindfulness, and I'm sure you've already received instructions and are beginning to do that. But mindfulness is more than just being in the present moment in Buddhism. Mindfulness is an aspect of mind that not only allows you to know where you are, but it recognizes where you are, and it's able to understand if where you are is where you want to be. So mindfulness is also considered the essential practice of gatekeeper. And many of you who have been around know that we talk about that. The mind must have a gatekeeper, something that is aware what's arising, what's coming in, and whether it's healthy or unhealthy, wanted or unwanted, toxic or non-toxic. Again, if there's nobody at the gate, and many people have minds where there's nobody at the gate, then anything goes. So mindfulness is that state of alertness and presence that allows you to not only be present to what's arising, but also to recognize what it is and whether that's, where you want to be or not want to be. Is that clear? So this is all involved in being mindful. Right. Not only is it the basis of a spiritual or meditative life, as you well know, it is really gives us the capacity to be alive. Many people are not alive. They're physically alive, but they're not present. They don't touch life. They're always touching their thoughts about life, their dramas, their melodramas, their emotional states. That's not life. That's only our own mental fabrications. Right. So we want to be able to touch life directly as an experience, but we can't do that if we're not present to it. Right? So mindfulness allows us to be present, to see what's going on in life, and then to enter it fully. So it's very enriching to life. Oh, we taste the food we're eating. That's interesting. We are present to the people that we're talking to. Right? We're feeling an emotion. Right? When you walk around here, you're able to touch deeply this wonderful space of trees and space and water because you're present to it. So beside being traditionally a foundation for a meditative life, mindfulness, because so many of us have lost this, that we're so in our heads, we could say, that mindfulness brings us back into life. So is that clear? This is mindfulness, the basis, right? And this is the foundation for our retreat and should be the foundation of your activity here. Are you going to be perfect? No. If you were perfect, you wouldn't be here. Okay. We are here because we are training, we are cultivating, we are practicing. So you want to understand what mindfulness is, and you want to be doing your best with all the support of the retreat and all the aspects of it, and your own reminding yourself to come back and stay. And when you leave, you bring yourself back. Please understand that when you notice that you have left wherever you are and are in the realm of distraction, as soon as you notice that, that means that you are what? Mindful. This is very important because people notice they're distracted and then they just, kind of go on about a dialogue about, oh, I can't believe I'm distracted, or you know what I mean? It's like they create more distraction. Or else they seem, now I got to get back to where I was, right? Or I got to get back to where I want to be. You see all that effort? But it's not like that. As soon as you have noticed that you've been distracted, you've been lost in a thought, or that means in that moment that what? That mindfulness is present in your mind. Is that clear? Mindfulness is present in your mind. So, you're there. It's simply a matter of shifting your attention away from your thought or whatever drama or melodrama or whatever you were lost in, and coming back to what's right here. It's not a big deal. It's right here. Is that clear? I mean, coming back to your breath, you're already breathing. So mindfulness is just, even though I've been lost in some melodrama from, 40 years ago, I'm actually right here. Just relax. Come back. Right. Concentration, which is also what we're doing, because let's say we concentrate on our steps. We concentrate on our breath. We concentrate on being in the body. Concentration is a way of taking the mind's energy and focusing them, which produces a calming effect, a tranquilizing effect. That is how we developed a calmer, more tranquil mind. So that is how concentration and mindfulness come together to produce the basis for looking into this mind, which is where we started this conversation. Right. If the water is filthy, if the water is murky, if the water is all stirred up and roiled up, we can't see what's on the bottom, can we? So we practice mindfulness, we practice concentration to calm and clarify the mind so we can look into it. So that's what we all need to have as a foundation of our practice here for this 3-day retreat. Are there any questions about that? I mean, I know a number of you are new, a number of you are old. I was saying, are there any questions about that? Not just theoretically, but just how to do it. I mean, we got to keep it very practical here. Yes. Yes, Barbara.
A couple things. I've heard you say this before, Fred, and it's interesting. I'm curious about how the more I hear you say it, the more I get it. One thing is that, so that's a comment. The other thing is that when I'm concentrating, what am I concentrating?
Well, when you're sitting, again, I don't know what everybody's practice here, but let's say your practice was full awareness of the breath.
Okay.
So you're concentrating on your body breathing, and your concentration means you're putting your attention. Again, mindfulness reveals everything. We can just be mindful, very wide. Right? Concentration has the sense that I am more intentionally putting my attention on something. Okay? So you can be mindful of anything, but let's say your meditative practice is you're mindful of the breath. Right? So that is what you are concentrating on. And by putting something in focus and putting the energies of your mind in a more concentrated way, you're taking the dispersion and you're bringing it together in a more unified thing. It actually is an experience. See, most people don't realize that having a distracted mind that's always roaming about everywhere is actually a kind of mind. It's a mind that doesn't feel settled. It's a mind that doesn't feel solid or integrated or whole. And we don't even know that. We think that's normal. You see, but that's not normal. So there is actually an experience of mind which is just, again, very solid and whole and relaxed and open, which comes from having a more concentrated mind, which, again, all of us can do. It just means learning to concentrate on whatever one's doing. So when one is sitting, one is concentrated on, let's say, on the breath. When one's walking, one's very concentrated on whatever one does the walking meditation. When one's eating, one's concentrated. Right? I mean, I could be eating and being very concentrated on the person across from me. I could be concentrating on the ceiling. You know, there are lots of things one can concentrate on, but we choose things also that because we are wanting to learn to live a more mindful whole life. So we say when we're eating, we just concentrate on what? On the food. So we can really learn to develop mindfulness and concentration in our actual living. So does that answer your question? So that's concentration. But concentration often, it's not simply that you want to be able to put it, the mind on an object and hold it there where it's often presented. It really means developing a unified mind. A mind that is not all over the place. A mind that can just be a steady beam. It doesn't have to be a narrow laser-like beam. Right? It can be a wide beam, but it's, when we shine it in a certain direction, it stays there, so you can see what's there. So it's a capacity of the mind, again, that we're developing that is really a necessity. Because again, as I said earlier, things get more interesting when we begin to look into the mind to understand it. But if we don't have mindfulness and some degree of concentration and clarity and settledness, that will never work. It'll be just all over the place. Oh, that motion was that was a flashlight, kind of trying to look around, look for something. It's I mean, if you do like that, on a random basis, you may luckily hit upon it, but it'll go right off. Okay, so we want to be able to. So that's concentration and mindfulness. Any other questions? Yes.
Okay, so I'm just starting to, when my mind is distracted, bring it back, bring it back to my breath, and that's mindfulness that I feel this little peacefulness. But how do you make it last longer? You
don't try. You just do the practice. It'll happen. Don't get, we get focused on, because if you want it to be one way, then you won't want it to be another way. If you want it to be one way, you'll be really happy when it is that way, and you'll try to hold on to it, but it'll slip away. And if it's not the way you want it, you'll be frustrated or down, and you know what I mean? And so that's the way we do it normally. When we come to Dharma, we don't want to recreate our same neurotic patterns, do we? Even though we will probably try to. But hopefully we will not do that, right? We want to be at ease. We just want to practice. Mind's distracted. When you notice it, you bring it back. 5 seconds later, you bring it back. 10 seconds later, a minute, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Because that mindfulness of the breath, that noticing that you have left it, and that bringing it back is all the practice of mindfulness. Is that clear? That's all the practice of mindfulness. It's not like, oh, this is mindfulness and that. It's anytime you are aware and mindful, you're practicing mindfulness. Concentration is developing a greater capacity to keep it where you want. And let me just say, keep it where you want, more or less. Right? I mean, we are not here meeting in a cave, on the 200th day of this retreat. In that case, we might want a little more real laser-like concentration, but that's not going to happen. And it doesn't have to happen for your own transformation to occur. Any other questions? Yes. I mean, we can't take too many questions. I do want to get into things today. Yes. So we're just talking about questions about practical things, mindfulness and concentration. Yeah.
Practical.
Yeah.
This morning, 6:30 in the morning, I was really practicing, trying to be at ease, just what we talked then about concentration. So I sit here, there are toes in my field of vision.
Toes.
Move.
Right.
On top of this, these are my husband's toes. Special invitation.
It could be a special endearment. Doesn't have to be an irritation.
But not irritation when they're moving, when they're supposed to be totally still.
Really? According to who, Maria? Whose law is that?
My gatekeeper was asleep, obviously.
No. Your gatekeeper was too hypervigilant. It doesn't have to be concerned about moving toes. It has to be concerned about moving mind. Let the toes be. Let the toes be.
That's what I was practicing.
Good, but then you don't have to close your eyes. Because if you close your eyes, you're making...
I'm asking.
Well, it's not too hard for you. It's the problem isn't the toes. That's what we think. And you're already anticipating the 3 fierce mantras. The problem isn't the toes. The problem is our minds. Can you see that? And when you understand that, you relax. You let the toes wiggle any way they want. It doesn't matter. You want to relax. And I'm glad you had that little moment. That shows you about this crazy mind of ours. It'll get upset about toes. How much more so, like global warming or, the U.S. Congress. You know what I mean? So this is important. And again, it's all related. Our difficulty with moving toes not being the way we want is no different than the big stuff. It's just on the same continuum. So the more that you can catch it in all these little moments where you see her being disturbed by external experiences, and then your mindfulness reveals that. But you understand the problem is your mind. It's not the toes.
I understood that.
Good.
And it still was a challenge.
Well, that's good. How are you going to, do you ever go to school? What? Do you ever go to school? Or?
Only for 16 years.
All right, 16 years. All right. So did you know that sometimes it was challenging? Was it always easy for you? No, sometimes it was challenging. Okay? But if you don't, how are you going to learn? So, I'm delighted that it's a challenge to you. That shows you, I gotta be right. So when you're in a learning situation, some things you may learn easily. But then all of a sudden you hit something and you go, wow, I don't really get this at all. So that means you got to what? Focus. This is going to, right? And that shows you, this one I'm going to have to really focus on. What is that? That need to control the world to, this is right, this is wrong. Maybe you have lots of rules in life, Maria's rules, that the rest of the world doesn't know about, but that you're secretly enforcing. But nobody listens to you anyhow, do they? No. You're only disturbing yourself this morning. Right? The toes kept wiggling. Any other questions about practice? Yes. Yes.
Sometimes when I'm meditating with mindfulness and concentration on my breath, and I go into choice of silliness, if a sound, just to use an example, if a motorcycle goes by or an airplane flies over, and I focus and concentrate on the sound, and it becomes, my mind makes it become an aversion.
So you hear a sound and there's an aversion to it.
Do we focus concentration on one of the hindrances of if we're practicing the fourth foundation, do we practice concentration or
So you are again, we are not, this is not meditation Olympics. Okay? You're here to wake up. We're here to get wise. Right? That's what we're here. A Buddha is not known for his, because he got a gold medal in concentration. He's a Buddha because he woke up. He saw things clearly. So you're sitting, focusing on awareness of your breath. right? A sound appears. It's no different than the toes, right? Except the toes appear to the eye, the sound appears to the ear. That's the only difference. It's coming in through a different door. But it's the same thing, okay? And you notice, right, then rather than just it being a sound that arises and disappears, your mind grabs onto it. In this case, it grabs on with aversion. Interesting. You see, interesting. That's curious. Can't even let a sound go by, right, without creating something. That's interesting. You know, if I were you, I would look into that. What is the source of that? Where's that coming from?
Is that investigation?
That's called investigation. Right? And that it comes out of a mind that is aware. Yeah, we want to free ourselves. Because again, I would imagine just like Maria, that, you know, in this case it's a motorcycle or a sound, but there may be many other things in your life where you're noticing a lot of aversion. So, you know, it's all connected. So we want to look into these things. But we will talk about that. Good. So as you know, we're talking about Dharma medicine, right? As I've been reminded. It is important. The Buddha said, hear my teachings, reflect on my teachings, then practice my teachings. Okay. It is important if we want to change that when we hear the teachings, we hear with an open mind. We hear with an open mind. And now, for many people who are cult-phobic, you might go, uh-oh, got to keep my critical thinking alive. Who knows what they'll implant in me? But it's not like that. Because the Buddha said, first, hear my teachings. To hear means you're hearing purely. You are totally present and absorbed, and you're like the metaphor would be, you're like parched earth. That when it rains, it just absorbs it. Right? It takes in the nourishment. Okay. So, when you're in the presence of Dharma teachings, you want to get them in. But many people, everything is filtering through their thinking. And we often don't understand that our thinking is based on misunderstanding. And so it's never getting in because we are out here distorting it. Already we're interpreting it. Already we're giving it our own meaning. So we wonder why it never gets in, even though we may have been exposed to many teachings and we might have been reading Dharma or other kind of spiritual things and heard many talks. We wonder why does it still seem like the same old stuff inside? you know, why am I still playing the same songs, dealing with the same stuff? It's because it doesn't get in. So you got to let it get in. So when you're listening to a Dharma talk, please just be totally open, relax, and let it come in. Be very alert and just let it come in. Right? That's what's meant by hearing the teaching. Then reflect on the teachings mean you then not reflect like, many people think reflection is like argument. Right? Let me argue with the teachings to kind of convince, that my perceptions are right. It's like, if we want to stay stuck, then why even go through this? Right? Might as well stay home and watch TV. Do something fun. But if you want to change, and you want to change, it means there has to be an acknowledgement. Why do we go to the doctor? There has to be an admission of what? That I'm sick. And what? And I don't know how to cure myself. Right? If I didn't know how to cure myself, I wouldn't go to the doctor, would I? No. So going to the doctor is coming to the conclusion, one, I am sick, I am ill, and two, I do not know how to cure myself. Maybe we've been taking the herbal remedies. Maybe we've been drinking the herbal teas. Maybe we've been doing this and that, right? But we're still sick. We're still ill. And so therefore, going to the doctor is an admission of that. Is that clear? So when we go to the doctor, hopefully we will choose a good doctor, a qualified doctor, and we will be willing to submit to their higher understanding of illness and what causes it and what are the cures. Is that true? Yeah, there has to be that. This is important. Again, this is another reason that many people are on a spiritual path. They read, they study, they go to retreats, and their suffering never ends. Their neurotic mind continues on. It's because they never get this fundamental point. That's why I'm trying to share it with you now, so we don't waste these 3 days. Why are we here? Because we're sick. We're ill. What is our mind and heart ill with? Egocentricity, self-centeredness, hard-heartedness, emotional afflictions, sadness, anger, resentment, fear, right? Closed off, self-conscious. We could go on and on. These are why we're here. These are why we've come to the doctor. Buddha was called the great physician. Right? So there has to be that understanding. This is why I'm here. Trust the doctor. And then comes the hard part. He or she will what? Will give us the assessment, will give us the diagnosis, and then we'll prescribe a mode of treatment. But you know what? We know better, don't we? We always know better. Right? Yeah, I know I'm supposed to take this pill 4 times a day, but I think once is enough. Right? And then we wonder why we aren't getting well, and we blame what? We blame the doctor, or we say, oh, there must be something wrong with me, really wrong with me. You see? A lot of people think that, oh, I'm just so screwed up, no wonder, right? No. It's because we don't trust the doctor. We don't take the medicine as prescribed. We don't follow the regimen. It's as simple as that. These teachings, these methods, as those of you who've been around a while know, are 2,600 years old. There's nothing new here. There's a lot of stuff out there in the world of spirituality that's very new. People have their own new method. Lots of new methods. This is America. Everybody's an entrepreneur, even in the spiritual realm. Everybody's starting new stuff, new products, copyrighted. With Buddhism, it's not like that. It's 2,600 years old. It's been time-tested. It's practical. Millions and millions and tens of millions of people have gotten experiences with the same kind of results. You don't have to worry here. Just find a good doctor. Is that clear? So this is a retreat about medicine for what ails us. Now, what are these 3 fierce mantras? Have they been presented at all yet? Okay. So these were written down by a Tibetan teacher of the 12th century, so it's old medicine. And they're called 3 fierce mantras. That's an interesting thing to call them. Mantras are what? Anybody know what a mantra is? What's a mantra? Anybody go to yoga class or something? What's a mantra?
Words of power.
Words of power. Okay. Powerful words. In Tantric Buddhism, they have what are called wrathful mantras and peaceful mantras. Right? So this is a wrathful mantra. It's like, oh, kind of thing. You know? Sort of like if you're a parent, you kind of, when the kid's misbehaving, first you start up, come on, just put that down, Stop pulling the cat's tail. It's like, you start out kind of peacefully. But if the child doesn't respond, at a certain point, you got to go, stop. Right? It's like, that's the wrathful. Okay, that's the wrathful. It's not hateful, but it's understanding that something a little more energetic, a little angrier, is what is needed at the time. Is that clear? It's just another way to help the person stop what they're doing. Is that clear? So he called these so this is a fierce mantra, strong, wrathful mantra, but it's a word of power. Okay. Now, what is this mantras? These 3 fierce mantras. What are they trying to do?
Get your attention.
Get your attention, but they're a word of power. Think about them as like, since we're in the wrathful realm, like a hand grenade. How about that? Right, a hand grenade. A hand grenade is good for what? Blowing up things. All right. It's like dynamite. How about dynamite? It's like dynamite. It blows up things. So a wrathful mantra is something that blows up our wrong thinking, blows up our delusion. Okay? Is that clear? So it's going to be strong and powerful. Okay. So, the 3 fierce mantras of Tsangpa Gyare. Number 1, whatever has to happen, let it happen. 2, whatever the situation is, it's fine. 3, I don't need anything whatsoever, and then in parentheses, but the Dharma. Now these are very simple, aren't they? And they're not in Sanskrit, they're in English. Very short, very simple. But yet they're called 3 fierce mantras. Why is that? Because the normal person's thinking and living is the opposite of this, right? Our mantra is not whatever has to happen, let it happen. It's like only let happen the things I want to happen and stop everything else. Right? Right, Maria?
Yeah.
Right? Toes. Is it whatever has to happen, let it happen? Motorcycle sounds? Not at all. Right? And that's just the tiny things. So this is the thing that explodes and destroys that type of thinking. And of course, we'll explain all this. Whatever the situation, it's fine. Nobody lives like that, right? If it's a situation that I like, that's fine. If it's a situation I don't like, that's terrible. Right? That's the way that's our mantra. Whatever the situation is fine as long as it's going my way. That's our mantra. But he doesn't say that. Whatever the situation is, it's fine. Whatever has to happen, let it happen. You know, anxiety is epidemic in our society. Right? I mean, we think it's normal to have anxiety, to be fearful. Right? We even share our anti-anxiety medications with each other. It's like normal. Because we're afraid that something's going to happen that we don't want to happen. Isn't that what fear's about? Yeah. Whatever has to happen, let it happen. Whatever the situation is, it's fine. And listen to this last one. I don't need anything whatsoever but the Dharma. This is the end of consumer culture. Right? I mean, you know, shopping malls are going to shut down. The auto industry is going to go bankrupt. I mean, this is the end. Right? Because our culture, our economy is based on what? We have to what? Need things. I mean, so this is really dangerous stuff. I don't need anything whatsoever. And our mantra is what? I need so much. I need more money, I need more things, I need a better job, I need a better relationship, I need endlessly need. I need to have fun, I need to go on vacation, we need. It's all about need. Every day is. Right? Needs. Getting my needs satisfied. Happy when I get my needs satisfied. Unhappy when I'm not. My wants, my needs, my desires. Right? That's what we think life's about, isn't it? Isn't most people would say that's what life's about, right? You have needs, you wants, desires, and you know, and you go out there and fulfill them. I don't need anything whatsoever. So do you get a sense that these are kind of powerful? Now, let me just say that Sampagyare did not write these when he was 7. And probably did not write them when he was 17 or 27 or 37. These very simple pith teachings, these 3 fierce mantras, are the culmination of his meditative spiritual life, that he got to this point where he put it so clearly and simply to benefit us. Is that clear? And so it is important, not that we just adopt them, you know, like, oh, I get it. You know, like some people could go now, well, I can go home. I got them. I got the answer. No. It's a process. We want to go through a process that brings us to the same conclusion. These teachings are conclusions. They're summaries that come out of a deep understanding. Is that clear? And that is another reason why when we graft on teachings or practices to us, we graft them on without really understanding them deeply. Again, another reason why it just doesn't work. Why so many people are always disappointed in themselves, right? Oh, I know better. Right? Oh, I know this, or oh, I know that, or I've been through this before, or I said I was never going to do this again. Well, why do we? Obviously because we don't really get it, do we? But for Sampagyare to state these as key teachings of his practice and for his students showed that he gets it. And so we want to get it. Are there any questions about what's been said so far? I want to take this time for interaction. Is there anything that's been shared so far that you take exception to, or you don't understand, or you're... Yes.
So last time we were in Naples, we talked about boundaries, setting boundaries, right? And that is important. When I hear a teaching that happens whatever happens, would that mean that someone invades, violates my boundaries? I just let it happen.
Well, let's hold that off. We want to explain the teachings. You're already asking about applications. I'm going to spend some time, and hopefully you will understand that yourself at the end, okay? But that's a good question. Any other questions just about what's been shared so far? So let me begin. Where do we want to begin? We could begin with this flower, but let's begin with the big picture. To walk a spiritual path, to have a spiritual outlook, in this case, Buddhism or Dharma. Everybody familiar with these terms? I don't know if everybody here is familiar. Buddhism refers to these old teachings and practices that are associated with the Buddhist tradition, going back to the Buddha, but having lots of unfoldings, many different cultures over thousands of years. The Dharma are the teachings and the practices as taught by the Buddha and the masters. So we want to be big picture people. Okay? Most people are small picture people. Right? We go from situation to situation, crisis to crisis, first grade to second grade, childhood to adolescence, adolescence to our 20s, 20s to our 30s, situation to situation, relationship to relationship, job to job, day-to-day crisis from day-to-day crisis, right? Just kind of doing our best to get through. Does that sound right? I mean, we're just kind of small picture people dealing with this, we don't see the big picture. Right? We see the small picture because we're always focused on the small things. Right? My to-do list, my list of resentments, my list of fears, my list of disappointments. I mean, this is what we're focused on. Right? But we don't see the big picture that unites all this together. The same way, we could make it about the toes, or we could make it about the motorcycle sound and not see it. It's really about, my inability to accept things as they are, my need to control. Oh, see, that's big picture. Right? I mean, we could be endlessly upset about toes and then work our way out of it. Right? Oh, it's just toes. What's the big deal? Let go. Until we see the toes again. And we start all over again. And again, most people, that's where they do it. Endlessly working through the same stuff. Right? Small picture. We're small picture people. But we want to get the big picture. Right? We want to see what's underlying all this. What's this all about? Right? And we know people, in spiritual traditions, founders of spiritual traditions, kind of look at things deeply. Are big picture people. That's why we are grateful to them, right? Because they see the big picture that we don't see. Is that clear? So we want to become big picture people. So what's the big picture here? Big picture is, I don't know, I guess one big picture could be human life, right? So that's big, right? We're all participating in human life, right? And when we look at what's going on in human life, whether it's historically or right now, we would see what? Is it a bed of roses? How is it? How is it in this life?
Full of division.
Well, or we could say, people have all kinds of different ideas about this and that. But how do we know it's delusion? Because it is creating suffering. People suffer in this world, right? Teenagers suffer, grade school kids suffer. Doesn't mean there's not happiness and other good things. Teenagers, young adults, old adults. People suffer when they're sick, and people suffer when they age, and people suffer when they lose, and people suffer, right? People get angry, people get hateful, people get scared, people get worried, right? People get sad, people grieve, people harm each other, say things, do things with their body and their speech that hurt other people, right? Am I right? Is that kind of the big picture? Right? And things are always changing in this life, right? You think you got some stability, you found the right job, you found the right place to live, you found the right relationship, everything's in place, and then what happens? It changes. Right? And when it changes, we're not happy. Unless it's something we don't like, so when it changes, we're happy. But kind of, so we go from happy to unhappy, we like, we dislike. We're satisfied, we're dissatisfied. We gain, we lose. Right? We're liked, we're not liked. We're a success, we're not a success. Just endlessly, right? Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down every day. Ups, if people get together, how was your day? Well, today was an up day. Oh, how was today? Today was a down day. And we talk that way as if that's normal. Is that clear? We'd say this is kind of the human condition. It's a mixed bag. But there's also something very unique about this human condition is that's really quite unique. It is incredibly time limited. Right? It's incredibly time limited. These trees, better option than human beings for the time we're here. And we are very prone to, the human body is very fragile. Very easily gets sick, very easily gets harmed. It doesn't take much to take the life away from a human being, does it? People do it all the time. Life is very fragile. If I want to go out there and kill that tree, I got to work at it. That takes a lot of energy. But to take the life of a human being is easy, isn't it? That's how fragile our life is. Is that clear? That's another kind of big picture thing about just being a human being. It's time limited. All of us, every human being dies. It used to be they lived for maybe 30, 40 years. Now they live in some parts of the world, like our part of the world, 70s and 80s. Other parts of the world, it's still quite not that way. But all the same is, it's time limited. So everything we accumulate, good, bad, we have to leave all of it. We have a very temporary relationship with everything, don't we? Especially our bodies, all our possessions, all our relationships, everything is very tenuous. Is that true? Mm-hmm. See, we don't like to think this way, do we? There may be people here who are not liking this conversation at all. All right? When's Fred going to shut up? What a downer he is, Or maybe people getting a little anxious when they hear this, get a little scared. Maybe people get sad, lots of responses. But yet we know that this is the truth. This is another very salient part of the human condition. So this is like big picture. This is like what's really going on here. Right? It's like we're looking under the hood. We're looking under the hood to see what's really driving this thing, and how come it's not a smooth ride? Right? Good question. Right? So these are the kind of questions that we ask. It's the kind of question the Buddha asked. Buddhism began with who? With the Buddha. That's the Buddha. In case you didn't know. He's sitting in meditation. Calm. Stable. Unchained. Yeah, so this was the Buddha, he even though he was only 29, looked into these questions, right? He was married, a child, he had a good job, everything was good. Good health, he was at the prime of his life, and yet he had a series of circumstances, we won't go into it, that he started looking into, what's really going on here, and he couldn't quite figure out. He saw all this impermanence, he saw all this change, he saw all this dissatisfaction and suffering, and he realized that everything that was anything meaningful to him, a source of happiness, he couldn't hold on to. And it caused him to undergo a spiritual crisis that led to a 6-year, we could say, deep looking into things, into life. So he could really see what was going on and figure out, is this all there is? Right? That's a good question, right? Is this all there is? Is the ups and downs and jumping from crisis to crisis situation, emotional ups and downs and gains and loss and fears and sadnesses and happinesses, is this all it's about? Wouldn't you agree that that's a good question? Anybody disagree? See, it's a good question. Right now at home this morning, the refrigerator was making strange noises. Right? I could ignore it, couldn't I? Or it may be worth looking into because there may be a problem. And that problem perhaps could be solved. I don't know. It's like that. We want to look into things. So the Buddha looked into things, and he saw the big picture. We won't go into it, what he saw, but he saw the big picture. And his teachings for almost 50 years were about explaining that big picture to us. The Buddha's, what's called the Eightfold Path, all these various 8s and 6s and 4s that the Buddha taught are all his way of putting it together for us. So we could understand what was going on, as well as he gave a whole technology of practices, trainings for the mind and the body and the speech that could allow the human being, that's us, in the midst of all this up and down, back and forth, in the midst of all this fragility, all this unknowing, all this impermanence and temporariness, can allow us to live happily, peacefully, lovingly, openly, compassionately, fearlessly. But it came out of this willingness to be present to the condition, the human condition. This is very important. We have to reflect in this way on the human condition, and our own condition, and our parents' conditions, and our friends' conditions, and our loved ones' conditions, and our children's conditions, and everybody else's condition, so we see the big picture. So when we undertake a spiritual path of healing and transformation, there's some energy behind it and some awareness of what we're doing. We are replicating that journey of the Buddhas. Right. We want to wake up. We want to become enlightened too. the way things really are, so we can live truly a meaningful, happy life in the midst of all this human condition. Is that clear? Anybody disagree with that? Please. Does everybody, is there anybody who disagrees with that analysis of the human condition? Is there anybody awake? Let's talk a bit. This is big stuff. We want to have an interchange here. We want to have a dialogue. This is big stuff. If you don't get this, it won't flow. You have to get this. Yes?
So when I look at my relationship that I'm struggling with because of my own causes and conditions as well as theirs, and I look at this human being in the picture that just happened like a couple of days ago, I really looked this time with using my eyesight that I was, given, and really looked at this human being in this picture. And some of my aversion transformed. And it was kind of eye-opening. Like the big picture, sort of.
Yeah, see, what's the big picture for this person? This is a real person in your life.
This is my mother.
Okay, good. So this is a person in your life that you have come to realize, or maybe you've known for many years, that you just have a strong aversion to. Maybe that's a little simplistic, but let's just say that. At times, okay. And so there it is. This is small picture, right? This is like between her and me. Something happened, something didn't happen, blah 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 blah, and I really have anger at her, aversion to her, dislike for her. This is all small. This is what we're all going through, right? Big and small all day. Sometimes it's toes, sometimes it's global warming, but this is the stuff that keeps us agitated. Okay? Small picture. So we want to go big picture. Dharma is big picture. Okay. So let's take your mother. Okay. Your mother's life is unfolding within this big picture of life. Has her life been all a bed of roses? No. Has there been suffering and difficulty in her life? Yes. Were there many causes and conditions with her own upbringing, her own childhood, her own teen years, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that have molded her, that have shaped her? Okay. So, it is... we're not with like all human beings, but even now you've kind of widened the vision. Because we begin with, she didn't do this, you know what I mean? But when we step back and go, what's the big picture of how she unfolded? And then what's the big picture of how I unfolded? And then what's the big picture of about we unfolded?
The vision opened.
Yes.
And I was allowed to freely look at her as a whole human being.
Which she always was. She's trapped in the human condition too. Right? Wanting something, not getting what she wants. Having to deal with a life that's not going the way she wanted. Not getting the nourishment she really needed, even if she didn't know it, right? She was created by these causes and conditions.
But it brought some beauty forward and some joy.
Yeah. Again, we are not cartoon characters. Right? Even in the driest hole, there's water. Right? Saddam Hussein might have been an incarnation of evil to us, but, maybe his children would say he was a wonderful father. Our little minds don't want us to see that, but it's complex. Everybody is made up of causes and conditions.
when I did that, when I was able to see that, there was really not a whole lot going in. I mean, there was not a whole lot going on with my mind. It was just breathing and aware of my breath, and then just really using my eyes to deeply look.
Oh. And again, when we begin to go big picture, and mindfulness is like that, it comes because we just hold things as they are, and we stop getting lost in the story. So when you just, the same way you might look at your food, or the same way you may look at the tree or look at the river, when you just stop and you just look at your mother without any thinking, and you just look at her, and you see her face, and you just see her as she is, what then happens?
Realize that I love her.
Yeah, and maybe you see suffering in her. You know what I mean? You. That's the gift of mindfulness, of just being present, and we can begin to see things, and there's space. And when there's space, you have the opportunity of responding very differently. But again, like we said earlier, we're usually just responding to our stories. We have these stories about our mother and what she did and didn't do or should have done. You know what I mean? And all. It's like the toes. And yet the truth is, the toes are the toes and they're moving. And your mother is your mother. She is who she is. And it's all unfolding within this broader kind of unknowing or unconsciousness that people have. They don't know how to be happy. They don't know how to love, do they? They want to, and they want it to be receivers of that, but yet they don't. Many people don't have a clue. And that's just the truth. That's big picture. Small picture, mom, me, mom, it's like this. Tight. Big picture. Good. Yes. Somebody back there, or did I? Yes.
Well, I would like to ask, this Buddhist training is all about compassion, and as you say, like having the big picture. My question now is, though, I would like to add to this gentleman there, how can you have the big picture when your boundaries are often violated and your feelings are, you know what I mean, when somebody just really violates you in a certain way.
So again, let's go big picture a minute, and then we'll deal with the. You see, we want to have, again, to have a real spiritual life, right? What is your name? Have a spiritual life is to be able to have a context, right, in which we can deal with the situations of life, such as you're talking about, with some degree of understanding and compassion, right? When it's small picture, when we're just lost in the drama between me and them, it's often hard to do that, isn't it? So we have to look at the role of self in this too. But again, one of the biggest teachings of the Buddha is what's called cause and effect. Okay, it's given a name, karma. Maybe you've heard that, right? Now, what does that mean? See, that's a big picture thing, right? Karma means what? Anybody have any idea what karma means?
What you give out, you give back.
Yeah, responsibility. But as a law, it means what? Just as a law, it means cause and effect. It's really like that, cause and effect, right? Everything now is the effect of the past, right? Right. I mean, why is Pauline the way she is? Well, if we understood everything, that had happened to her in her life and her family, we would understand Oh, Pauline is the way she is because of causes from her past. Right? She is the effects of all those causes. And that's like in everything, right? I mean, why does Pauline look the way she does? Because why? Because she was created, the causes that created her body were who? You didn't have a miraculous birth, did you? Okay, just checking. The way you hesitate, I mean, I know you grew up Catholic, but I didn't know. Right. So when we look at Pauline and wonder, and we wonder, where'd she get her body from? We would say the causes of her body were her mother and her father. Right. So that's what we see in Pauline. That's her. But even to say that is to also understand that that's also their bodies come from their parents. So there's grandparents. There's lots of and you can keep going back and back, and you're going, well, whatever it is, all those physical causes have all come together to create this. Oh, now we see it in big picture. We don't just see snapshots. Right? And when the same way with the mind and all that, I mean, all the things that you've thought and felt and gone on in your life are also, been stored in your mind, right? So there's lots of stuff that goes back thousands of years and this and 10 years. But also, let's say you were sleeping, right? Now, what's the cause of that? It could be that last night you didn't sleep well, or maybe your head's foggy. Well, maybe what's the cause of that? Well, maybe you got a little cold. You know what I'm saying? So everything is the product of cause and effect, of causes, or in Buddhism we say causes and conditions. Right? Is that clear? As well as everything we do right now, right? The way we are, the way we act, the way we speak, the way we think, everything we're doing right now are causes that will have future effects. Is that clear? So it's not like it stops. It's this endlessly involving of how everything happens. Things come into being, they grow, they develop, and then they begin to change and decay. Everything's changing. Okay? So cause and effect is big picture. Oh, why is Pauline the way she is? Well, I could, ask her to write a novel, right, or her autobiography, or I could just simply say, well, I could just accept that she is who she is because of the causes and conditions of her life. That is why in this moment she's manifesting the way she is. It doesn't mean a year from now or 6 months from now she may not be different, because new causes, new effects. Right. But I have no issue with how she is now, because I understand how she is now is just the way she is because of causes and conditions. Is that clear? That has to do with everything. That's big picture. And when we understand that simple law that operates in everything in life, then there is what's called understanding. Why is the world the way it is? I mean, there's millions of books, history books, sociological books, anthropological books. Right? There's endless books that describe it, in some very big picture, some very small picture. But the simplest answer is, why is the world the way it is? Because of causes and conditions. Right? I mean, can you see that's really the answer, isn't it? And all you're ever doing is trying to, unfold causes and conditions when you try to understand. I mean, is that okay? So that answers things globally. That answers things politically. That answers things personally. Right? Why is this person doing what they're doing? Why are they not doing what they should be doing? Why do I even think this way? Causes and conditions. Causes and conditions, you know. You may have all kinds of things about your mother, how she should have been, how she shouldn't have been, what she should have done, what she shouldn't have done, right? And we all have that stuff. But it's all just fabricated stuff, because the truth is your mother is who she is. And she did what she did. Right? Doesn't mean that your mother can't, going forward, perhaps could change. All human beings have that capacity. But at least how she's manifesting up to this moment, she's manifesting perfectly according to her causes and conditions. See, and that's a big one. Please don't just accept what I say, because we spend a hell of a lot of time rejecting that. Right? We're always going, what? I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this person just did this. I can't believe this person said that. I can't believe, you know, right? I mean, isn't that the way we talk to each other? What? Yes.
But when these things happen.
But let me just, before you say anything, let me say, there's no moral judgment. I mean, the realm of morality and ethics are things that we, in terms of our civilization, develop. But this is just... It doesn't mean that we don't, you know, to give the example that we always learn in college. It doesn't mean that the rabid dog might not have to be shot to protect the people on the street. But we don't blame it, you know. We understand that it's a rabid dog.
I guess what I'm wondering.
Yes.
I think about the issues and things happen. That's the way it's supposed to be. And how are we supposed to react to?
Well, hold on. I know. You see, I'm slowing it down because we want to go to the answer, but I want us to get the principle. All right. So you don't have to be asking me. You see. So let's make sure that we get the principle, and then we can use some examples like we just used to illustrate it. But I mean, my hope is you'll get the principle. Okay. So, will you accept? So, can you accept that things, you know? Yeah, and Eva too. So, you are you, and somebody else is somebody else? We're talking about a person. Okay. You are you, and they are they. And they do things, or they have done things which cause you suffering? Okay. Why do they do that?
What you just explained.
Okay. So you have understanding. You don't hate them because they can't help themselves. We could hate them, and we often do, but we don't hate them because understand they're just trapped in their causes and conditions. They can't see out of it. Right?
Yeah, but how far can we accept it?
Hold on. We're not talking about action. I'm not telling you can't act. Right? I can understand that rabid dog, you know, has a disease that's causing it to act the way it does, and that the only thing in this can be done is it's got to be put down. Okay? But I do that from understanding. Doesn't mean I don't act. But I don't have hatred. I don't have ill will. If you got bit by a rattlesnake, would you hate the snake? Mm-hmm. Would you? I mean, you could. But what's the truth? The snake was just being a snake, wasn't it? It was just following its nature. That doesn't mean you go over there and pet it, does it? Right? You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you bring it home and let it run around your house, do you? You understand it's a what? What is it? It's a rattlesnake. And so you handle rattlesnakes appropriately. I mean, is that clear? But you don't hate the rattlesnake. You understand that it's a rattlesnake, and because of its own cause and conditions, this is what it does. It has venom. This is the way it protects itself, or this is the way it gets its food. I don't know. You know what I mean? And you understand that. So understanding doesn't mean, again, that you walk around petting rattlesnakes. Nice rattlesnake, sweet rattlesnake, right? Doesn't mean you let it in your house, does it? You see, there'd be no understanding if you did that, wouldn't it? Understanding allows you to handle situations appropriately, skillfully, without all the emotion. I mean, we're all about emotion, aren't we? We love the drama. But the drama really just makes it more difficult to do what needs to be done. Right? If someone is, I don't know, very deliberately, seemingly doing things that are hurtful to you, right? You can understand they do it because of causes and conditions, their own history. You can understand all that, but you still may need to act, right? Doesn't mean you don't act, but it means you act from wisdom. You act from seeing clearly, not from distort. I mean, do you see what we're talking about? In terms of what you were saying, does that make sense? Yeah. Can you see it? Can you see how the big picture allows you to act wisely and compassionately, but intelligently with a situation? Because it's not colored by all that emotionality and distorted thinking. Right? See, as long as he thinks the problem is toes, I would say that's distorted thinking, right? Because that impatience is arising in your own mind, right? Oh, once you understand that, you can deal with it wisely, intelligently. And if you think he's got a significant problem with twitching toes, you could, talk to him afterwards. In a helpful way. After the retreat, I meant. I mean, maybe he needs a medical consultation. I don't know. Yes, and then yes.
As far as advising my children and grandchildren, is the big picture meddling and trying to meddle in the big picture? Being a teacher, we don't have any friends. My grandmother just graduated from college in the 80s. She just got a job, nice job, for the Koch brothers. There are two schools saying, tell her they're evil. Another school says, you can't advise her, let her go. So is there any wrong or thing?
Hold on. No, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you big picture. Big picture is your granddaughter is who she is, and she's making her choices in life. Okay, that's number one. That's the truth. See, the truth is factual. The truth is real. When people say, I can't believe that just happened, I mean, that's stupid. It just happened. And then we go, I can't believe that just happened. Right? I can't believe she just said that, or she didn't see that, or they'll pick up an obituary and go, I can't believe it. Look who died. But obviously the person died. I mean, that's a fact. Do you see what I'm saying? And so we think this kind of reaction is normal. It's really abnormal. It's kind of delusional. So, again, your granddaughter is, causing conditions, have brought her, blah, 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 and she applied, and now she's got this job, okay? Certain people think it's wonderful, certain people think it's terrible, right? And not to take it, and all kinds of stuff. So, again, it's a situational, it's causing conditions. If they're causing conditions in your relationship with your granddaughter, allow an open dialogue and she's interested, it's only because of causes and conditions. If causes and conditions have created a relationship where your granddaughter wants to make her own decisions and doesn't want anybody telling her what to do, that's also the truth, So it's when it's not about me, when it's not about self, when it's not about, and you're able to see the situation clearly, and then you act appropriately, wisely, with understanding. And we always want to, operate with understanding, but we want to operate it from reality, and again, understanding who your granddaughter is and what brought her and what the situation is in terms of the account. You know what I mean? And all the reasons that, what?
You're not trying to control it.
Well, yeah. I believe the mantra is, whatever has to happen, let it happen. Because it's obviously going to happen, isn't it?
Would you suggest going forward as we go into walking meditation outside and into lunchtime, that in addition to resting in mindfulness, being aware of what's unfolding in front of us, to bring this sort of looking at what were the causal conditions that arose to what we are seeing, to bring any of this looking into in that part of the practice?
Yeah, again, I would say, I said that what I want to do is we have these 3 fierce mantras as kind of our focal point. But rather than just giving talks about them, I'd rather lead us through a process that we come to the same conclusion. We understand that. Oh, of course. And that is my hope for these 3 days together. And so, again, I think we are getting in the right direction so far, which is understanding that, understanding causes and condition, not just in a theoretical way. Oh, it's karma, everything is karma. People, but really understanding very personally. So we get it. Not here, but here. We understand it, understanding that, understanding impermanence and things like that. Yeah, this makes, or everything changes. This makes understanding the 3 fierce mantras much more understandable. Yes. So any other questions?
So you mentioned a couple of times you said, the nature of the flower, and then you talked about the nature of the dog and the nature of the snake.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're looking at the nature of things, I have a tough time. I'm learning how to look at what is my true, my true nature, and then to understand others' true nature. Is it the same? Like, is your true?
No, when we talk about, if you're talking about something like true nature, Buddha nature, that is a little different than talking about the kind of constructed, maybe it's using the same word, the constructed aspect of a being. Right? So obviously, all snakes share the common snake nature, but in a certain sense, the conditioned nature of a rattlesnake is different than the conditioned nature of a garden snake. We might say the nature of all ceramics is clay. Right? That's the nature, and the clay, all clay has the same nature, right? But yet, in the hand of a skillful potter and in the hand of an unskillful potter, the results will be very different. Right? But they all those ceramics have the same nature. They're all of clay. All human beings have the same nature, the Buddha nature, we might say. But yet, many people do very different things with that Buddha nature. Actually, most human beings turn it into the opposite, unfortunately. But that still doesn't mean that the nature isn't still there. I don't know, can you melt down a ceramic dish and turn it back into clay? I don't know, can you? Is there a process?
If you don't fire it, or you fire it, you do.
But after you fire it, you have to melt it down. What happens if you melt down a ceramic dish that's been fired?
It becomes glass.
It becomes glass. Interesting. Thank you. So we will stop. Thank you, and we will continue tomorrow. So please have a good day of practice. Yes.